most people in life, when they're trying to plan something, when they're trying to put something together, like plan their day, we all learned yesterday that what controls our focus controls our life. Whatever we focus on, we feel, even if it's not true. Do you agree with me on this, yes or no? And everything's trying to get our focus all the time, right? Advertising's trying to get our focus, your phone's ringing, in your pocket it's buzzing, and that buzz is either your phone or it's an email or it's a text. There's this constant something trying to get control of our focus. But what you focus on determines your destiny in your life. So if you don't take control of it, somebody else will. And so the challenge is, even when we try to take control of our own focus, even we try and attempt to do this, usually there's so much distraction that it becomes very difficult to do it. And even if you did it in the traditional way and you were going to go out tomorrow and you're going to plan your day or you're going to plan your week, you're going to go home. In order to plan it, you're going to have to come up with some answers for the week. And the question you're going to ask if you don't know RPM is what? What do I need to? Say it nice and loud. What do I need to? And that's a good question. It's much better than why do I have to do this? It's much better than what the hell do I do? A few modifiers around that language and you'll feel very different, won't you? So when you ask, what should I do? The answer you're going to get is usually based on whatever is most pressing on you at that moment. And what tends to press us is either something painful, right? Right now I got to do this because if I don't do this, something's going to happen. Or something that we want, something pleasurable. Is that true? Or it could be our own sense of vision. But that's usually the last thing that we focus on. How many agree with me on this? Say aye. So let's say, for example, someone keeps coming to you and goes, I need this and I need this and I need this. And they do that in the form of your text. They do that in the form of a phone call. They do that in the form of an email. They do that in the form of walking up to you and go, hey, Tony, can I ask you a question? And right in that moment, they're coming to you and they're asking for the most valuable thing you have in life, your focus. Because out of your focus, you're going to put your attention, your energy, your intellect, your emotion, your thoughts, your lifeblood. And the way you invest focus is the way you invest thought, feeling, emotion, and life. And wherever you spend that focus is going to determine what you end up with in this life and what you're able to give in this life. So focus, bless you, is the single most important component you got to learn to take control of. And most of us are not very good at this. Primarily because the culture has conditioned us to respond to what we need to do. And when you're coming up here, Dr. Ruth here in front of me, and she goes, Tony, what I need to do right now is being dictated by the environment, not necessarily by what is most important for me or my mission or my direction or my life. Now in a seminar, it's appropriate most of the time because this is what I'm here to do. But even in seminars, sometimes I have to say, can I get back to you in a moment? Because I have to do this because I'm also running this damn thing. I'm not just on stage, right? So the combination makes me have to look at it. And there's an army of people back here running it, and I got to help them, or they got to help me, and a lot of moving parts. So sometimes I got to stop and not let you take my focus, even though I'd like to give it to you. But if I were to ask, what do I need to do? I'm going to get a certain quality of answer. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. True story. President, I won't go any deeper than what I can reveal without being disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. I would never do that. But it's a known fact, because it got out in the newspapers. There was a stage when President Clinton called me. And when he called me, he literally called me up and said, and I'd known him for a little while and worked with him prior, but he called me up and said, they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? And I kid about it today. I said to him, well, could you have called me sooner? But what truthfully I said after that was, I can give you my answer to that question, but I don't know if that's really the question you want to answer. Because the answer of what you should do requires a different question to be asked first, which is what's most important to you? Because if what's most important to you is to stay in office, then obviously you should just keep doing what you're doing, because even though they'll go try to impeach you, they won't have enough votes and you'll stay in office. But if your outcome, what do you want? What's your outcome? What's the result you're after? That changes what you do. If your outcome is to regain respect from mothers, fathers, what they can say to their children about the President of the United States, then based on that, you might have to do something different. And I said, it's easy for me to say, because I'm not in your position and I'm not facing an inquiry in the legal side. And he said, yeah. And I said, but you're also a lawyer. Now, you certainly know the law. And I said, you know what you can say. He goes, yeah, well, you don't have somebody coming at you, stars coming after me. He's trying to do this, trying to do that. I said, I know that. So I'm not telling you what to do. You're just asking me what to do. I won't tell you that. First, you got to tell me, what do you want? If you don't know your outcome, if you don't know the real result you're over and you answer what to do, you may even get what you want. You may do that, get the result, but it's not the result you really wanted. That's, again, the difference between strategy and tactics, isn't it? Which is one of the single most important lessons I hope we got across to you this week. So you got to learn to ask a different question than what to do, because how many of you found out that it doesn't matter what the day in your life is? If you really write down everything you got to do, there's no way in hell you could do it all. How many agree with me on this? Raise your hand and say aye. So most of you start out in the old days with a little time management book and you used to write down all your to-dos, right? How many used to have one of these? Right? You write down all your to-dos, and then in the early days, you actually put like A, B, C priority maybe in the very beginning. Anybody get that anal to be able to do that? Separate them out so you focus on the priorities, and then maybe even plan when you were going to do them in your day. And that lasted about how long? You still carried that book around with you in those days when it was on paper, remember that? But what it was your address book in those days, because you didn't have an iPhone, right? It was your calendar and your address book and a few crappy things you wrote down, but you never sat down and wrote the whole list out because you knew you weren't going to do it all, and it just felt like hell every day to rewrite it all. Who can relate with what I'm saying as being true? Say aye. So when I only had one company to run, I was just a kid, I went to one of those programs prior to the days of Franklin and Covey and all those guys. It was called the Time Bank. And we had this 3-ring binder like this. It was so cool, and it had its tabs and had my calendar in the front so I could schedule things, and have these daily little tabs. I could plan out the day and write my to-do lists. And then it had my A through Z's in the back where I could file under people's names and things, all the details I needed. And then that was all the phone information, because there wasn't email in those days. And you carried around this little mini suitcase of these big rings, and it worked really cool. It was great. But I learned once I had 2 companies, and then 3, and then 4, then 5, there was no way. My to-do list got bigger and bigger and never got to be done. And I found myself not writing it down, and then I found myself doing it in my head. And I got a pretty good memory, but man, that was painful. I felt the shock of it all over again. Bottom line is, I said, there's got to be a better way. And I kept thinking, what controls our life is what we focus on. What we focus on, we feel. What we feel and focus on, we move towards. Wherever focus goes, energy flows. So wherever your focus goes, energy flows. So if I want to control my focus, the most powerful way is by asking what? Better questions. So I need to come up with a better question, because what to do is a painful question. And it's a stupid question very often. My point is this: where focus goes, energy flows. You must control your focus. You do it with questions. If you ask the same questions as everyone else, you end up with the same answers. So, how did Bill Gates change his economic world? He was a software designer who didn't say, how do I make better software? He asked, and called everyone else to ask, how do we become the intelligence that controls all computers worldwide? How do we become the intelligence that controls all computers worldwide? Now, when that's your outcome, do you end up with a different to-do list than if your outcome is to build the best software? Yes or no? And that's why he's one of the richest men on earth. Change a question, change your life. When it comes to planning your life, I want to get you to learn to ask 3 questions now. And the first one is not, what am I going to do? And how many understand why now? Say aye. The question you want to ask yourself is, what do I want? What's my outcome? What's my result? The word RPM, the first one, is to get you focused on the target. The target is not the activity. The activity can change. It's what's the result I'm after. If you know exactly what it is you really want, what you desire, what you're really after, clarity is power. The more clear you are and specifically what you want, the faster your brain can get you there. But if you're generally saying things like, what do I want? Well, I want more money. Fine, here's $1, get out of here. Did you achieve the outcome? Yeah, when you're that general, you think you're not getting your goal, you are. The way you language your goal, the way you think about it, you're receiving it. I want to feel a bit better. I want to lose some weight. Fine, you lost a pound, you're done. Because your brain's like a servo mechanism and a bomb and a missile. In the old days, you shoot a missile and the target was going, and if you missed the trajectory, you missed it. Today, what happens when the missile's not on course? What happens? It locks on the heat signature. What does it do? It moves and follows it. That's the way your brain is if it knows the outcome, if it knows the result. So RPM starts with, I got to know the result. This is a results planning system. The rapid planning method, but you can think of it as a results planning system. I need to know the result I'm after before I ever ask myself what to do. That takes more time, but it's worth it. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to do this with you right now, but I'll tell you what I do when I've taught this to people and I've got a full weekend to do this in. Just give you a picture. If I asked you right now to write out your name, your full name. Now, some of you abbreviate your signature, but write out your full name in cursive. Go and do that one time. Write out your full name in cursive. I can't even use the word cursive. Is that really the word people still use? It means in handwriting, I guess, but in cursive. Just write it out full name, because you can do this later on. Full name. If you normally abbreviate, don't do that. You have to write out the full name. Now, if I had you get with a partner, and you can try this later if you want. I'm just going to tell you because I don't want to take the time because we have such limited time today. And I have your partner say to you with a stopwatch here, okay, ready? And I go, go. And you write it out. And you tell me when you're done. And I go, stop. And I write down how long that was. So let's say you wrote out your signature and it took 5 seconds. And then I say, ready? Write it out. Ready? Go. You tell me when you're done. Stop. And I write down 5 seconds. I have to do that 10 times. You'll find in the beginning, you'll be, let's say, 6 seconds. I'm making it up. Everybody's signature is different. And you probably might get down to as little as 5 seconds. If you have like an iPhone, you could do it as a digital stopwatch. You could see the milliseconds. Then I say to you, I want you guys to write every other letter in cursive. In other words, you're going to write half as many letters. How long do you think it would take to do it? Half as much time? Most of you, it'll take twice as much time in the beginning, and then eventually, what's interesting is, if I do it 10 times, and the last 2 or 3, and this makes no logical sense, and again, I don't want to take the time to have all of you do this 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, but you can go do it on your own, I'll just tell you the result. In most cases, even though you're doing half as many letters, you cut it by 2/3 of the time. There's something happens when you break an old pattern and you do it fresh. Your brain over the years has learned ways to move more rapidly since when you did your original signature, and you'll do it in 1/3 the amount of time. It'll take twice as much at first, and then it'll cost you 1/3 amount of time. Now let me tell you why I'm telling you this. The system I'm calling the rapid planning method, by the time I show it to you, you're gonna go, this takes more time than just making my to-do list. When will it take more time? When? Initially. But once you get it in your nervous system, it'll take you less time because your brain will be thinking in outcomes and not activities. And when you think in terms of outcomes and not activities, pretty soon some of the activities in your list you don't even need to do to get the outcome. You find a better way to get the outcome quicker. Now, how do you do that? Yes, 3 questions. Question 1, what is my result? What is my outcome? What is it I really, truly want from this? If you're going back next week, and you say this next week, what are the most important outcomes for me to get this week in my business? And you just write those outcomes out, not your action items, the outcomes. If you do that and nothing else, you'll be ahead of the game. And if you just keep looking at those outcomes every day, how am I doing on that outcome? Your brain will come up with ways to get to that outcome. I promise you. Focus on outcomes, not on activities. Action for most people, activities, most people may mistake movement for achievement. They mistake action items and to-dos for achievement. We're after the achievement. Are you with me on this? Yes or no? It's a different way of thinking, and I think all of you inherently have it, but if you make this ritualized, just like the things you've learned this week, they're all great, but if you don't systematize them, they'll work when you do them. But if you systematize them, right? And you see like Mr. Holloman here, where he goes in and just does it and makes sure it's being done again, or what you've seen Chet do, or what I do. You just do it over and over again, you don't miss it. Now the results are geometric. So I want to get you to systematize the thinking, whether you do it visually the way I'm going to show you or not. So, first question, what's the result I'm after? What's the ultimate result? What do I want out of this week, out of this thing, out of my business, out of my life, for my body? And you want to be as what as possible when you describe that outcome, that result, as what? As clear and specific as possible. Generalities will confuse you. So it might take you longer than just writing down call so-and-so to think, if I'm calling my son, I'm going to call Jarek, or I'm going to call my brother. This is what goes through my head before I call him, always. What's my outcome? Because I don't want to just call him. I want Jarek to feel loved by his dad, or I'm thinking about what's my outcome. I've got to talk to him about this thing that's out there. I got to make sure I get through to him on this because I want to guide him and move him in this direction. That's what I want to be as his father. I don't want to just chit chat. I can do that too. If you think before every phone call, before every time you're planning your day, and you think before you have any meeting, what do you think the first thing I ask of anyone when we sit down in a meeting is? Okay, what are your outcomes? What are the outcomes for this meeting? First thing I want to know, because if I know the outcomes, guess what? A lot of meetings, they're done pretty quick. Because if I know the outcome, you don't have to go through all the activities to sell me on it. Just, that's your outcome? How do you want to do it? Sounds good to me. Rock. That's how you make a meeting productive. I know a meeting's productive not by the hours or time. Sometimes it takes longer to the outcome than you want, but I'm going to get the outcome. That's, by the way, what you see with me on stage. That's why my times vary. But it's based on an outcome. I'm going to get that outcome. I don't give a damn whether it's the right time or not. I want to do it in that time, but I must deliver the outcome. How many get that? And by the way, how many like to have your company focused on outcomes, results, and not activities? Say I. People say all the time, well, did you get that done? Well, I left them an email. I left them a voicemail. I've sent them 3 emails. How many times you heard that? When that happens with me, I'm like, but I don't show it. I just like, really? Wow, that's fascinating. We'll explain about our culture. It's about getting the result. So I can help you if you can't figure another way to do it, but there may be 12 other things we might want to do. Maybe they don't have the answer. Maybe somebody else can give us the answer. The outcome was to get this information, not to leave an email or 12 or 3 voicemails. That will not do any of us any good. How many follow? Now, whether you get the outcome or not, whether you get that result, will be based first, do you have clarity? And the second thing is whether you got enough emotional juice to keep going after it when things don't work out. So the second part of RPM is the purpose. RPM, by the way, how many knows what it means when you increase the RPMs in a car? Anybody here? What does that do? It builds up what? Power, speed. Higher RPMs, you can explode through something, right? You can make something happen. So think of this metaphorically also, this rapid planning method, this result planning method. So it's rapid planning, it's a result planning. You want a results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action culture. That's what RPM stands for. It's how you build up power and you break through. But whether or not you get that result will be, are you clear and specific? But also, do you have enough juice when it doesn't work out? How many of you are going after an outcome in your day or in your week, and for whatever reason, you're not able to get it? The person doesn't respond, they're not there, the thing's not there, something interferes, somebody interrupts you. Who's had their plans interrupted? Raise your hand and say, I. So whether you keep doing it or not is, do you have enough emotional juice? See, guys, you all know out of this week, you got more than enough to take your business to a whole nother level. You got more ways. You can go home and be artists now. And some of it, went by so fast, but many of you get the program, you'll watch enough times, you'll be there. Somebody's going to invite us in, we're going to be there and make sure you do it. So it's going to happen. But the art of it being followed through or not is going to come to you have the emotion to follow through, and that needs to be a part of your thinking also. So the next question I've always asked, besides the outcome, is why? Why is more important than how? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Purpose is more powerful than object. Purpose is more powerful than object. You say, I want $1 million. That's a great objective. I want $1 billion. Great objective. I want to feed 3,000 children in my community. That's a beautiful objective. It's even more specific. But even that objective, you might get excited about so you realize what it takes to feed 3,000 kids, right? And the politics involved and all the people that don't follow through. And then you have this good intention and somebody else is pissed off because one of the kids didn't get fed, right? And you did everything you know how to do. What's going to make you keep going? Purpose. Why do you want to feed those 3,000 kids? That $1 million, that $1 billion? Why are you going to take your business to the next level? Why is the most important thing to know, because that's where all the emotional juice and fuel is to actually get you to go through when the challenges show up. Every person you see who's on fire and is successful knows the why. You know what the problem is? You might know the why in the beginning. You wrote a mission statement and stuff like that. You got to know why you're doing this right now. This right now. That's what's going to engage you and activate the why. You might have a why, but it's not active. How many follow the difference when I'm talking about here? Say I. Otherwise, that little law of familiarity shows up. You know, well, we're doing this because da-da-da-da-da, and you repeat the why, but has no emotion behind it. See, if I take a stick pin, no, I don't see anything like that, but you know when a woman has a blouse and they have like a little stick pin in it? Let's think that stick pin is a word. And I take that stick pin and I throw it at you. Are you going to feel it? Barely. What if I take that little stick pin called a word and I wire it to the back out of a giant iron bar called emotion? Now I can take that stick pin and put that thing right through your heart. That's the power of why. RPM. R is the result, the outcome. What you're after, P is the purpose. It's the why. 80% of success is why. 20% is how. Get a big enough why, people will figure out how to do it. Yes. How many agree with me on this? Say I. So you better know your why. So, talking to the president, tell me something. What's your outcome? And then why? And then once we know the why, we know what you're after and why, then the question is, how do we do it? We know what we're after, why, how do we do it? By the way, are there lots of hows to get to an outcome, yes or no? Yes. Are there many paths to get a result, yes or no? Yes. Some are more efficient than others. And you're not going to know, so you know what you do? You brainstorm out all the hows you can think of. All the things you could possibly need to do to get that result. And then you narrow it down to the 20% that makes 80% of the difference. And you'll find out you don't have to do that whole to-do list. In fact, wouldn't it be nice to write your whole to-do list and not do it and still get the outcome? How many prefer that? Say I. That's RPM. I love it when I don't do my to-dos and I got the outcome. That's the coolest thing in the world. You might have done one or two of them, but it's then learning selectively which ones are going to create it. But the only way to do that is to brainstorm out the M, the massive action plan. If I know the result I'm after, you know, what it is I want, what's the outcome, what's the result, what do I want specifically, clearly, and I know the why, and the why has got to move who? Who does the why have to matter to? Well, if it's a why you're trying to get everybody to deal with, they got to have a why involved in it. But people do things for different reasons. People donate money for different reasons. Some of you donated money the other day here because you were moved by the experience. Some of you did it for connection. Some of you did it to contribute. Some of you felt guilty if you didn't do it because somebody else did beside you. Or you have a lot of money and you feel guilty about it because you didn't earn it. I'm not saying anybody in this room, but that's how some people are. They inherited it, so they feel guilty. Some people do things to get their name up on the wall. Some people today do it anonymously and then tell everyone. Isn't it true? Yeah, just confidentially, that was me. You know? And everybody tells everybody that it's anonymous. They're doing it for significance. Some do it for connection. Some do it for contribution. I don't care why a person does it, but we do it. But if you're going to work with a group of people, you better make sure the why touches on all their needs. Does that make sense? When it's you, whose why does it have to be? Whose why does it have to touch? Whose purpose does it have to be? Your own for you to be moved. So if you know the result and you know the purpose, now you need the M, which is the massive action plan. We also call the massive action plan the map. It's your massive action plan, your map. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? And by the way, when you're crystal clear on what you want and you know why you want it, you can make a big map. You can brainstorm a million ways to do it. Not all your how's are going to work. That's why you make a whole map. And then go back and gradually asterisk the ones that are the most important and go hit those. You might get the whole outcome in the first 2 action items and get rid of your whole rest of your list. This is RPM. This is how I operate. Now, if you never did this on paper and you just did this thinking process in your head, you'll get invaluable resources. If you learn to put this on paper, it'll be more powerful because then your brain isn't racing and you can see it. If you make it into a system that you personally use, your productivity will explode. If you teach your whole company to do this, your company will go to levels you can't even imagine because everyone will maximize their productivity. And it is different than any other system in its essence because it causes a different focus with a different level of emotion, greater creativity as a result of that, and then it shows you how to leverage it all. Does this make sense? So those 3 pieces, results planning, asking what question? What's the first question you're going to always ask? What do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the actual result I want? From this day, from this week, from this conversation, from this meeting, doesn't matter what it is. If that's all you ever do, you're already practicing RPM at a fundamental level. But if you want to juice it up, you ask the second question. What's the second question? Quick. Why do I want it? Why? What's juicy about this? What excites me about this? What do I really want about this? If I'm going to call this person, why am I calling them? And then you know what? When you get a stronger why, the action items change because you're in a different what? Who knows? A different what? Make that same call without any clear outcome and any clear purpose, or the outcome is get back to him. That's my goal, get back to him. What's going to be the quality of the writing or the phone call or the vocal quality when you're getting back to someone? Versus if you know my outcome is to make sure they feel like I am so in their corner that I'm here to make sure their needs are completely met, more than they've ever met by any person they've ever spoken to on the phone before, and that I am here for them and they can count on me. Why? Because that's who the hell I am. Because when people deal with me, they have found someone like no other human being they've ever dealt with, and I am a source they can count on. That's why I don't have to go chase 8 million new clients. That's why they stay my client for 17 years and pay me $1 million a year to talk to them on the phone once every 10 days for 10 minutes and see them 3 times a year for an hour. And I get a piece of the upside, so sometimes I get a couple $1 million for that. Why would somebody pay you that kind of money? Because when my guy calls me, he gets delivery he can't get anywhere else on the face of the earth. So I pride myself in that. And by the way, that feels juicy to me. It meets my need for contribution, for my need for growth, my need for significance. I'm the best at what I do. My need for certainty, I deliver. And it's variety. Who the hell knows what's going to happen when I pick up this phone? It's different every time. Because the market's changed, something's going on. How many follow? Say I. It's a very different thing than, oh, I'm getting back to my client, right? And the way you're going to come across is different. And everybody will go, wow. And in life anyway, by the way, the people who are the very best on earth that get paid everything like 100 times more than everybody else, they're just a little bit better than everybody else. It's like, you know, a bear's chasing you. I don't have to be that fast, just that much faster than you. Right? In life, you just have to be a little bit better than everybody else and you get all the rewards. And that little bit better, to me, is RPM. Okay? Now, RPM is also a visual chunking system, visual way to chunk. Remember the other day when I showed you this little concept of this chunking system? Where, you know, you have this to do, and this to do, this to do, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and this, and this, and I gotta do this, and this, and this, and this, and I gotta do this, and this, and this. By the way, this is what happens when you ask yourself, what do I gotta do? Which I'm going to show you, you should still do. You should ask yourself all things you do and write them all out. And then when you've written it all out, you look at this and you step back and you say, okay, but what do I really want? What do I want out of this project? What do I want out of this day? What do I want out of this week? What's the most important outcome I can get out of this day, this week, this project, this element? What result do I want? And you go, well, I see this and this relate to that, but you know what I want this. Oh, if I want this, then this and 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 this all fit into that targeted outcome. How many follow? And I might go, you know what else? I also should do this and this to get that outcome. They're not even on the list. But these might get me there faster than all three of these. Oh, by the way, this and this and this and this and this and this and this, all right. Oh, and guess what? This and this and this and this and this, all right. And guess what? There's my day. 1, 2, 3. 3 outcomes, 4 outcomes, 5 outcomes. It's a different world. You will get yourself completely out of reaction. You start to take control. My question to you is this. How important do you think it would be for you to master a skill set like this, for you to have the quality of life you want, quality of business you want? What would 0 to 10, what would be the level of importance you'd give this, my friends? How big? Where would you put it for you? Raise your hand if it's a 10 for you. Let me see your hands. Good. I'm not going to teach you today. But I'm going to teach you enough that you can take yourself to the next level. And if you want to go deeper, you will. But I didn't want you to leave without the fundamentals of it, because just the fundamentals will help you to take what we've got here and take it home and go to work at it at a much more effective level. Because words change emotion. And change the emotion, you change what people actually do, not what they write down they're going to do, what they actually do. You change the quality of how they do it, because it changes their state. Make sense? So if you're going to master RPM, and you're not going to do that today, but if you want to, let me just kind of give you the overview. There's 7 principles of power. Just capture them if you want. First one we're going to come back to right now, but I'll start with it at the top. Believe it or not, above anything else is the power of language. Why is language so important in managing your life, your emotions, your results? Because we don't experience life. We experience the way we repackage life the minute we label it. See, if you have an experience and in your body, your nervous system is feeling this sense of discomfort, then think of it this way. There's these uncomfortable feelings coming through you. Think of it like a funnel. And all this noise, environmental stimulus is coming through you. And then you have certain words you use very often, 2 or 3 that you use. Kind of like you're taking all this juice in and you're going to have these cookie cutters. And the words you use most often are pissed off, frustrated, and annoyed. You're going to get a very different experience than if the person has the habit of being enraged, right? Crazy, want to kill someone. Or someone else who goes, you know, that peeves me. They take that same stuff and goes, peeves me. Someone else goes, I want to kill someone. It has nothing to do with the actual experience. It's the words. I'll give you an example. Anybody here know who Ken Blanchard is? Wrote the 1 Minute Manager. So Ken's a dear friend of mine. I've known Ken for, 30 years. And if you haven't ever heard Ken speak, he's the real thing. He's such a sweet soul. And he takes complex things and makes them really simple. Ken is one of those universally happy guys. And one of the reasons he's happy is his language patterns. See, we all have habitual language patterns. We filter the word and we put the label of what it is on it. And the minute you label an experience, the experience becomes that in your body. So some people will say, well, if I said to you, you're mistaken about that, John. How do you feel if somebody says you're mistaken? What if I say, John, you're wrong? Who feels a little different now? What if I say, John, you're lying? Who here will get into real intense experience if somebody says you're lying, right? Because your integrity's there. Now, all you have is change one word and we can change your biochemistry, right? Well, we use words all the time with our experience just because it's the habit of what we use most often. My mother's passed away, bless her soul, but when she was alive, I told this story. She used to always be humiliated by everything. She'd call my house back the days before email, and I was, traveling like crazy, and there was a answering machine, the old style answering machine, and she'd leave a message. I'm humiliated that I have to leave a message for my son. What is he, President of the United States or something? And in the beginning I get hooked, but then I noticed my mom was humiliated by everything. She was humiliated by the drugstore clerk. Because anytime she was uncomfortable, she called it humiliated. Till one day I explained to her what humiliated was, and we had this interesting conversation. And I got to see there were many other choices besides humiliated. You could be pissed off, frustrated, ignored, loved. But we get in the habits of attaching things. So Ken Blanchard, the reason I bring him up, Ken and I are good friends, and we were talking one time about how words affect people. And he goes, Tony, he said, I have this attitude of life. The worst, the worst a day can be is a great day for me. He said, if you're going to go golf or you're going to go fish, you can't get back from golfing pissed off, because the worst a day at golfing is going to be is a great day. And that's the label he has for everything. Great. So he went on with a group of people I know. Some of them are from the entertainment business, and some are some, very mucky bigwigs, and they're used to having things their way. And they went to Africa, and they went on a safari, and Ken went with them. And I'd been on the safari before, and it's a pretty intense safari and a beautiful safari. And the people running it know their stuff, first-class organization. But one particular person we'll leave unnamed, who's a very famous Hollywood producer, decides that he wants to take control of the show from the guy who runs it, who lives in Africa, and he knows what he's doing. And so he says, look, I want these roofs off. I don't want them just open up. I want them off. I want to be able to shoot the whole time. And he said, look, sir, he said, right now everything's fine, but if the truck were to break down, you want that roof on. You don't want to leave off the roof. The guy was so abusive, the man finally bent. So sure enough, Ken, all these guys are out there, they're taking pictures, and they're out in the middle of this crater, Ngurungur crater. If you've ever been there, it's an unbelievable place. It's like every kind of animal you could imagine is there. And sure enough, as they start going later, the guy goes, let's stay a little longer. And he's very influential, and he pushes the guide, and they stay out longer than they would. Now they got to rush back before darkness, and they don't have the roof on, and you guessed it, the truck breaks down. They're in the middle of nowhere. No one's answering the radio. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Everything's going to creep in. And one guy's going, oh my God, we're going to die. Oh, it's your fault. He's screaming at the other guy, and the other guy's screaming at him. And I got the play-by-play from two other people that were there besides Ken. But they told me that in the midst of all these people freaking out, angry, and people scared and everything else, because you could actually see the animals coming, and they're taking out their rifles, and it's getting tense. And in the middle of stuff, Ken looks out and says, this is inconvenient. And he wasn't faking. That's the word he used for this experience. It's inconvenient. And that's the word he uses all the time for things other people are stressed out about. And as a result, that's all it is inconvenient to him. And sure enough, guess what? Finally, the radio worked. Within a half hour, a guy came out. They brought some other trucks. They got these guys out of there. They left the truck there. Everybody was fine. But the people are like, oh my God, you killed us. Other people, we're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die. You son of a bitch. I mean, every language pattern you can imagine. Only one, inconvenience. Much of your life has nothing to do with your life. It's the way you use language habitually. Language is the trigger for meaning, and meaning equals emotion. So when I think of RPM, it's about language, because it's about the questions you ask, because those questions control what you focus on, but it's also the words you use to describe your outcome, the words you describe to describe the why. One word can change the whole game. If your description of you're a stockbroker, and what you describe, what you do is you go, I got a cold call on people every day, that's not going to get you moving very much. Remember, one guy I was talking to, he was so much more successful, he was brand new, he was blown by everybody, so I went and interviewed him. Because, all these other people are bitching and griping. He was having such a great day. I said, what are you? He goes, I'm a treasure hunter. You have to know every moment of your life. This is not about planning. It's about creating. Think about planning as creating. Whenever I think about planning, I'm creating something. And you create things with both your vision and your language, and then your action. But your vision and your language will shape how you feel, which will shape what you do or don't do. So this is the part that takes more time in the beginning, takes longer, but it's so much faster, because once you know the patterns of what move you, you just use that, and boom, it's like knowing the light switch to turn yourself on and rock and roll. And anybody who's the best in the world at what they do, they know how to turn themselves on every time. They know their triggers. That's what RPM's really about too. So this is not some frickin' time management program. Because every system, I don't care, and obviously Mr. Covey is a dear friend of mine, senior and junior, right? This is not Franklin Covey. This is not a little planning system. This is not pulling out your BlackBerry. This is not using things or whatever tool you use. This is a system of thinking and feeling and producing massive results that you want to take to whatever system you go to, and ideally maybe have a system that is set up this way. But even if you don't, you can do it with just the thinking process. So I want you to start with this first principle of power, this principle of language, which you might think of as the principle of passion. That's really what it is. The power of language is it produces passion. Now, in addition, if you want to follow through, remember, if you link more of your needs, there are 6 needs. If you link 1 need to it, you got an interest. 2, you got a drive. You link 3 needs to it, you're going to do it. Now, she was linking feeling insignificant to paperwork. Significance is one of the most important things in her life, right? She wants to significantly contribute. True? And it wasn't that significant to the contribution before, but all of a sudden now she gets it is. It's part of the chain of life. It's part of the chain of keeping a promise. It's part of the chain of my integrity. It's part of my chain of being able to make a difference. And you know what? Everybody else is lousy at it, and I'm not anymore. Because how the hell can I help somebody else if I don't do it myself? And so now she sets a new standard. So now it's significant. And by the way, if you want to make it more fulfilling, she can also say, you know, I'm connected to it because it's connected to the what, she said? To the outcome. There's a purpose here. Now there's connection. Now, doing this helps me to contribute. Well, I'm starting to meet a lot of different needs. Contribution, significance, connection, love. That's enough to get her to do it. Now, when she goes home, she can even develop a strategy to enjoy it. Like I interview people that do things that other people hate, find out how they do it. Somebody loves to clean their house. I said, great, well, let's look at these 6 human needs, because if you love it, it meets many of your needs, at least 3 or 4. On a 0 to 10, cleaning your house, how much certainty does it give you? And the lady says, 10. You say, why? She goes, because I know how to do it well, and I do it well every time. And I have control of it. Before your emails, as a way for you to get a sense of accomplishment, knocking a few off, doing something that's meaningless, you used to, when you're stressed out, organize your desk. How many are old enough to remember that? Now you don't even have a desk. Your desk is your laptop, right? So you knock off emails and things to feel a sense of accomplishment, which is you're just being active. You're doing activity. You're not accomplishing anything. Nothing significant. You're doing movement, trying to make it feel like achievement because you feel uncertain about things, out of control. That's what you used to do with paperwork, so you could take it back. What else? I get variety, she says. Cleaning the house? She goes, yes, I have 5 children. You never know what you're going to find. 0 to 10, how much significance? 100. Why? She goes, when I'm walking around the house, she goes, I play tapes like yours. I do significant, important things. I have time to think through my life as I'm doing these things while I'm accomplishing something. Plus, she goes, most people have a dirty house, and mine isn't dirty. People come over, it's spotless. I feel proud. What else? Connection and love from cleaning the house? She goes, yes, because while I'm cleaning, I pray for my children. I'm ironing, I'm praying for them. 10. Growth from cleaning the house? Yes, because I'm listening to tapes, I'm thinking of the future, I'm creating my life. Contribution? Yes, to my kids, to my family, to myself. She meets all her needs. That's why she loves cleaning house. Somebody else uses language like, I'm not cleaning that frickin' stuff. It's a waste of my frickin' time. So it all depends on what needs you related to. How many follow? Change your words, change your perception, change your procedures. Some people say, I love paying bills. I'm going, you love paying bills? Yes, there's so many of them. And they're always changing. Really, variety. What else? She goes, well, I go, but I pay the bills in different rooms of the house. And I play different music in each room. And then she says it feels significant and she feels connected because she says when I sign the checks, I think of the person and I send them love. And I think as I want them to prosper. And then she goes, I know that comes back to me. It's just what you focus on. What you focus on is first controlled by the words you use. And that's controlled first by the questions you ask, whether you're aware of it or not. How many get the power of this principle, the power of language? Raise your hand. Say I. Let's put back on the stage then. Here's a couple other principles. Again, I won't walk you through them all in detail, but I'll give you a little step at a time here. So first principle is language, the power of language, which I think of as the principle of passion. The second power is the power of results focus. I'm not gonna take any time on this because you got it now, don't you? You focus on the result. It's like taking the power of your mind and body and brain and putting it the laser power instead of having it scattered. You're no longer scattered on activities. Third principle, really, of RPM, is the power of purpose. No more time on this one. You got it. Does the why change the how? Yes or no? Does it change the quality of how you go about it when you're doing it for a different reason? Yes or no? I'll give you my core belief in life. Motive does matter. Motive does matter. If you want to know my pain in life, my ultimate pain is people think of me as a motivator. I hate that term. Mr. Motivator. You know, people go, I don't need any motivation. I say, well, that's good because that's not what I do. Right? No, they'll have a nice big belly. They go, I don't need any motivation. I'll go, that's obvious. You're highly motivated to eat. Right? I'm the why guy. I want to know why you say you want to lose weight, but you keep eating. Because what motivation is your motive for action. I'm very interested in what your motive is. You should understand your motive, your why, your purpose. That's where all the power of life is. And I believe motive does matter. If your motive in your business is just to make money, you can make it because you're focused on it. But I believe life moves to support whatever supports more of life. And I think a reason why HomeX or a Zappos grows the way they do is because they have a higher purpose as well. And a higher purpose is to serve something more than themselves. See, if I'm just trying to meet my needs, I'm going to get a certain level of insight. And I looked at my life, throughout my life over the last 30 years and thought, stuff happened at times that anybody who was there would go, that's impossible. No way that could happen. How could he know that? How could you shift that person? How could you change that situation? I've had these moments throughout my life. And I believe insight comes because I wasn't focused on me succeeding or failing. I was completely focused on serving them, and the insight shows up. You try to take care of your family, you're going to get a different level of insight than just yourself. Trying to take care of your company, even bigger insight. Trying to take care of your community, trying to take care of the world, humanity, without being ego, not saying it. If that's really in your intention affects the quality of what you're exposed to, of the insight, of what comes through you. Motive does matter. And we can always shift our motive. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to meet your needs and others. The game changes. And by the way, if you do this in your planning, i.e. creating, the game changes. Okay? You make it a ritual. RPM is a ritual of questions. You got to get it in your body as a sequence. When you get it in your body as a sequence and you lock it in and you condition it, it'll just happen. It'll happen like, what do I need to do? Used to happen inside of you. Next principle, number 4, it's the power of mapping. That means that once I know the result I'm after, once I know why I'm doing it, I got the right language, I need to come up with a map. You know what's interesting about a map? It doesn't always work. How many of you ever used before, in the old days, before they had Google Maps, there was a company called MapQuest? Whoever made the fatal mistake of using this crappy product? And what happened if you use MapQuest? What usually happened? You ended up getting a place worse than if you would have guessed. Because their map had nothing to do with the reality of the territory. Well, the more you do something, the more you're able to come up. The first time you do a map, you might be a little off. But if you do a map again and again and again, pretty soon you start learning the pathways to get to a result quicker, don't you? When you start making these maps, these action items, you're going to start to find certain ones get you further than others. And pretty soon, what took a long time, you're going to know the shortcuts. Oh, I know how to get from here to there quicker. I know the map. That's what used to be your to-do list. Now it's going to be a map to an outcome that's being fueled by your purpose. Okay? And then very quickly, as a principle, number 5, the power of chunking. So you've been in this seminar this week, and you got all this information. And I've attempted to get you to at least capture it in one place in the form of principles and actions. That alone chunks it a bit. That means you could turn that part of your book, kind of review the principles, right? You can read the whole book, look at the principles, and you look at your action item and say, okay, what does this relate to? You could just make it a to-do list of all these things you're going to do and figure out when you're going to do them. Or you could take all those to-dos. You could say, okay, these all relate to marketing. These are all the actions related to the outcome of making sales better. These are all the outcomes made towards culture and improving my culture. And you could take this random list of to-dos and maybe fit them in 6 drawers, 6 categories. See, years ago, I started do chunking. I started to realize I could get out of stress very quickly if I just learned to chunk things. I'd not only get out of stress, but now when I thought of my day and I got interrupted, instead of going, oh my God, I got 57 individual things to do, there's only 3 things I'm after today. I get refocused on my outcome. How many follow this? Say aye. You can do this with your project. You can do this with your week. You can do this with your company. So after a while, I came up with this idea. What if you could imagine your own home, the home you live in right now. What if we could take everything out of your house and you weren't there, and we dumped it all into just boxes, and the boxes got all collapsed into each other, and you were going to move and you weren't around, and then people just took all your stuff and just dumped it in the living room of your new house. Everything mixed in there. Underwear, toilet paper, soap, tissue, notebooks, computers, books, cosmetics, all mumbled and jumbled together in the middle of the floor. Would that be somewhat stressful for you? Yes or no? But what if, in advance, you took everything in your life and knew it would fit into one of, let's say, 2 chests of drawers, 6 drawers in each, 12 drawers. Maybe they may be giant drawers, categories. Like everything fit into, home appliances or cooking or intimate wear or whatever. If you had those 12 and everything could fit in one of those, you could take anybody in that room, once they knew those categories, how quickly could we transform that living room? How fast? Yeah, oh, this goes here, this goes there, boom, 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 boom. And by the way, when it's done, how quickly could you then get what you want? You know exactly where to go, put all your focus in there, you open the drawer, you find what you want. Somebody who doesn't work out regularly, doesn't exercise regularly, I'll say, how important do you think work out? Oh, yeah. And you'll finally get them where they say, I'm going to work out. But I'll say, why haven't you worked out up until now? I know you're committed now, but up until now, I want, not excuses, I'm not making you wrong. Just tell me, when you think about working out, tell me how you think about it. And listen, this is what they'll say to me. Well, God, it's so much work. Really? Well, tell me what do you got to do to work out? So, you got me right now? I don't even have any running shoes. I don't have any gear. I don't have any clothes. I'd have to go buy the stuff. I'd have to drive to the sporting goods store and, then I have to go in there and try stuff on. And, I don't feel very good about my size now anyway. It'd be uncomfortable. And then, after I pick what's working, I don't really know what I should be wearing. I don't know if I'm going to run or I'm going to work out or lift weights. So I don't know what to buy, but let's assume I got all that stuff. Well, then what? Well, then, I got to go to the front and sit there in that damn counter and wait, and then write the check and then get in my car. And, well, what else do I do? Then I have to find a place to work out. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I'd have to, go on the web and search for, clubs nearby. And then, then I have to drive to each of those individual clubs and I'd have to go in and, kind of go through the tour they give you and then sit through somebody trying to pitch me on buying 500 years of subscription to go there. And I don't like to be sold. And, well, let's say you bought one. Well, then they take a picture of you and you look ugly. It looks worse than your driver's license. And, then each time I go there, I have to go there, I have to drive there, I have to find a place to park. And then, I got to go in and show them my badge. And then I got to go find the locker and then I got to hang my stuff up and then it's going to drop. And I put on my stuff, and I got to go wait for the first machine. It's probably sweaty, so I have to probably walk it out, wipe it off, and then I go to one machine, another machine, then I got to come back, and now I got to take off my sweaty clothes, and now I got to go take a shower and see parts of people's bodies I don't really want to see. And then, after all that, then I got to dry my hair again, put on my makeup, put on my clothes that are probably wrinkled, put in the smelly bag, and then I got to go show them the thing so they can stamp my thing so I don't have to pay for the parking. And then I got to find my car, and I got to get my car, and then I got to drive off. Want to eat? Sure. What does eating take? Well, you just do it. Let's just drive there and eat. Eating is 2 steps in their mind. Working out is 429. The way you chunk things is what makes you like them or dislike them. See, when I first wanted to drive that stick shift car, it was a lot of chunks. I gotta watch the road, drive this, do this, push this in and out too, and watch the rearview mirror? No way. But now, you watch the road, you drive the car, you do all that's one chunk. It's in your body. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say aye. So you can over-chunk something into too many items, or you can under-chunk it where it's overwhelming to try and do one big step. That's where the art comes as far as chunking is concerned.